moment Niccolo Machiavelli decided to separate ethics from power, he didn't just write a book. He basically redrew the map for politics forever.
He did.
And we have to forget the cartoon villain stereotype for a second.
Yeah.
We're talking about the ultimate political realist, someone who just observed human nature for what it is.
And that observation, that's precisely why his work is still so sharp today. We're deep diving into two things here. His core philosophy in The Prince, and then the shockingly modern way we can apply it to achieve something really personal, emotional sovereignty through what you might call a kind of radical detachment.
Okay, so our mission today is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack why this 16th century diplomat decided morality had, well, no place in governing. And we're going to flip that whole idea on its head.
Yeah.
Because the strategies he laid out for ruling a state, we can use them today to rule our own internal world, to stop being, victims of our own emotional chaos.
Well, Machiavelli is seen as the founder of modern political thought for a reason. It's not because he was telling people to be evil.
No.
It's because he was the first to describe power based on reality, on what is, not some ideal of what we wish things ought to be. He looked at the absolute chaos of his time and just concluded that leaders have to adapt.
So let's go back to where this all started, because this wasn't some abstract philosophy he cooked up in a library. This book, The Prince, it was born from a total personal catastrophe.
It was. I mean, Machiavelli was a product of the Florentine Renaissance, born in 1469. He served the Florentine Republic for years as a high-level diplomat, a counselor. He was navigating this minefield of Italian politics.
Dealing with the Pope, the big, powerful families, he was at the top of his game.
He was, until the whole system just collapsed around him.
Right.
In 1512, the Republic fell. The Medici family came back to power in Florence. And Machiavelli, representing the old guard, he's immediately accused of conspiracy. He was thrown in prison.
Tortured.
Yes, literally hoisted by ropes. And then exiled to his small farm outside the city. It was during that period of total disgrace in 1513 that he wrote The Prince.
So it was basically the most advanced and maybe the most cynical job application in history.
Exactly.
A gift for the new ruler, Lorenzo de' Medici, hoping he could get his job back.
And that's the great irony, isn't it? This text born of desperation and failure, it completely failed in its immediate goal. We don't even know if Lorenzo ever actually read it.
Wow.
Yet this manuscript, written from the sidelines, it just fundamentally changed how the West talks about power.
Wait, let me stop you there. Because I can hear the listener now thinking, why should someone in 2026, dealing with a tough boss or a messy breakup, care about the political failures of a 16th century diplomat?
You care because the chaos he saw back then, the self-interest, the betrayal, the volatility, it's the same fundamental chaos of human emotion we deal with in our own lives. Machiavelli's ultimate goal was stability. He loved it, as he said, more than his own soul.
He saw what weak leaders did to people.
Exactly. He demanded lucidity, clarity. And that demand for clarity, that's our shortcut to personal mastery today.
That reframes it completely. So let's get into that lucidity, the core philosophical break that made him so infamous. Before Machiavelli, you had Plato, you had Augustine.
Right.
And for them, politics and ethics were the same thing. A ruler's job was to make people virtuous.
And Machiavelli just shattered that idea. He insisted politics has to be based on harsh reality. And his conclusion was that, well, humans are generally selfish. They're driven by their immediate feelings, their fears, their desires.
So you have to work with that reality, not pretend it doesn't exist.
You have to. This is where we get to the core of his worldview. We can break it down with a kind of triple why.
Okay, let's do it.
To the first question. Why must a ruler assume people are fundamentally self-interested?
Right. Why start there?
Because, he would say, look at history. It's a story of conspiracy, war, and betrayal. Loyalty only lasts as long as it's usable. If you trust people to be good, you will be ruined.
Okay, that's pretty bleak. So, second why. Why is political action, even if it's ruthless, necessary then?
To ensure stability. To prevent the greater harm. If a ruler ignores what he wishes ought to be, the whole state falls apart and you get civil war, you get immense suffering for everyone.
So it's a harm reduction strategy.
In a sense. And that leads to the final why. Why does this make preserving the state the ultimate moral good? Because he saw it firsthand. If the state falls, ordinary people suffer the most. They lose everything. So keeping the government stable is the highest priority.
So the prince has accepted this reality. How does he actually govern? This brings us to that famous question. Is it better to be loved or feared?
And he's incredibly clear on this. Be loved if you can, sure. But if you have to choose, it is far safer to be feared.
Why?
because love is fickle. It depends on other people's feelings, which you can't control. Fear, on the other hand, fear is constant because it's rooted in the threat of punishment.
But this is the part everyone forgets. He adds a massive warning right after that.
He does. He says you must never become hated. Fear is a tool. Hatred is a poison that leads to your downfall. And this brings us to that incredible story about Cesare Borgia.
Oh, this is a masterclass in political theater.
It really is. So Borgia conquers this region, Romagna, and it's a total mess, lawless, chaotic. He puts a man in charge, Ramiro de Orco, who is known to be cruel but very efficient.
Okay.
And Diorco does his job. He cracks down brutally and restores total order. But in the process...
Everyone grows to hate him. He becomes the symbol of all the pain.
Precisely. Borgia sees this. He knows the people now hate Diorco, so what does he do? He has Diorco arrested and executed.
But not just executed.
No. He has him cut in 2 pieces and displayed in the public square. Machiavelli writes that the spectacle left the people both satisfied, their tormentor was gone, and stupefied.
Terrified.
Terrified of Borgia's power. He purged their hatred and demonstrated his authority in one single, brutal act.
So the personal parallel here is what? That when we try to outsource our own chaos by blaming someone else on an X, a job, we get that temporary relief, but we never actually gain control of the situation.
I think that's exactly the takeaway. Borgia used a calculated external action to shape perception. And that means the prince has to master what Machiavelli called the art of pretense.
Appearing to have all the virtues, mercy, piety, integrity, even when you can't actually practice them.
Right. Think of it with a modern analogy. Think of the ruler's public persona as a kind of sovereign operating system.
Okay, I like that. A sovereign OS. So the background processes are.
The background processes are all the complex, messy, maybe unethical things you have to do to keep the system running. The manipulation, the necessary cruelty, that's the real political actions, the virtù.
But the user interface, what the public sees.
The UI has to be stable, user-friendly, and virtuous. That's the appearance. People judge the results, the smooth interface, not the chaotic code running underneath.
But doesn't running those messy background processes, doesn't that take a psychological toll on the prince himself?
Machiavelli would say that toll is irrelevant compared to the alternative, which is the state falling apart. But for us, for the listener seeking personal sovereignty, the goal isn't to be messy underneath.
Right.
The goal is to use that detachment to separate your feeling from your action, your intent from your delivery.
And that separation.
Yeah.
That's where we get to the heart of personal power, right? The difference between what we can control and what we can't. Machiavelli called it Virtù and Fortuna.
Exactly. Fortuna is luck, chance, fate. It's everything outside of your control. He famously compared it to a raging river that floods and destroys everything.
Oh, chaos.
Pure chaos. You can't stop the river from flooding. He figured Fortuna controls about half of our lives.
And Virtù. But let's be clear, this isn't moral virtue.
Absolutely not. Virtù is skill, courage, foresight, strength. It's the ability to build dams and canals to redirect the river. It's your preparation and your self-mastery. That's the other half, the half you control completely.
So, to increase our personal virtù, we practice detachment. How do we start applying this to our own lives?
Okay, principle 1. You have to recognize the trap of validation, the need to be loved or chosen or approved of. It makes you dependent. It makes you easy to control.
Oh, man, I feel that. I mean, who hasn't been there, right? Maybe after a bad meeting or a fight and you're glued to your phone, waiting for a text message.
Yes.
Needing that external signal to feel okay again. In that moment, your whole center of gravity is in someone else's hands. You've just given away your virtù.
You've handed them the key to your dam. And principle 2 flows right from that. Desire creates servitude. Anything you want too much, a promotion, a relationship, approval, it gains power over you.
If you show how much you need it, you lose your leverage.
You show your weakness. The person who appears detached, who masks their need, always holds the upper hand.
Which brings us to the third and maybe most powerful principle. It's a French phrase. Ressentir sans réagir.
To feel without reacting. It means you feel the provocation, the anger, the injustice, the attachment, but you don't act on it impulsively.
Because the moment you react,
you've handed over control. Your knee-jerk reaction is predictable, and anything predictable can be manipulated.
It's the difference between feeling rage and then choosing what to do with that feeling.
Yes. If someone attacks you online or a colleague undermines you, the impulse is to fight back immediately, to justify yourself.
And that's a surrender to Fortuna, to the chaos of the moment.
The mastery, the virtù, is feeling it, observing it, but choosing not to respond right away. Silence, strategic indifference. These are your greatest weapons because they're unreadable. They force the other person to show their hand.
So this is incredibly disciplined. This isn't about being cold or emotionless.
Not at all. It's about maximizing your self-control. Think of any major setback. Fortuna is the event. The rejection email hits your inbox. Virtù is your refusal to let that one event define your worth or dictate your next move.
You stabilize your own internal operating system first.
Before you let any external input change your output.
So let's give the listener a direct challenge, a way to practice reclaiming that personal virtue.
Okay, the 24-hour challenge. The next time you feel intensely provoked or find yourself really anxious about an outcome, apply indifference strategic.
So feel the feelings, see it.
Acknowledge it completely, but do not act, justify, or respond for 24 hours. Just hold it. See how that conscious withdrawal of your energy either preserves your inner peace or sometimes actually creates more influence.
That's being lion-like in force, fox-like in discernment, as he said.
It is. Now, let's do the time travel scenario. Imagine Machiavelli gets zapped from 1513 into 2026. What does he see?
Oh, he would recognize modern politics instantly. He'd see the high pretense, the control of public opinion through appearance, the use of outrage to manipulate people. He'd just nod and say, new tools, same humans.
But he would find our modern personal lives tragically naive. He'd look at social media, the obsession with validation from strangers, the constant need for approval.
And he'd see it as the ultimate surrender of personal virtù to external fortuna. You're handing over your inner kingdom for a like.
He'd conclude that we, as modern individuals, are desperate to be loved. And because of that,
we are incredibly easy to control. The tools of our own enslavement are right there in our pockets.
And that's why his work is timeless. He taught rulers how to use human weakness. We can read him to learn how to protect ourselves from it.
Detachment transforms that dependence into clear discernment. You become the master of your own internal state, no matter what chaos is happening outside.
Exactly.
And that leaves us with a final thought to take away from all this. The real Machiavellian power is realizing you never have to prove you have power. It just emanates from people who have stopped being afraid of losing things, especially their self-control.
Cultivate that calm that can't be read, that silence that can't be manipulated. That's true personal sovereignty.
If you enjoyed this deep dive, please support the channel by liking the video and sharing it with your friends.